More illusions. It says, now, if it is clear that all cardinal directions are different, north, south, east, and west are all different. They're not the same, right? North and south are opposites, east and west are opposites. So you cannot have north-south, and you cannot have east-west, but you can have northeast and southeast, and northwest and southwest. Right? Is that clear? So, now this is very logical. Here is, insha'Allah ta'ala, a thing that's going to be related a little bit to logic. If it is clear that all cardinal directions are different, then it is clear that if a line designated as AC, that's the name of our line. We're going to name our line AC, all right? A line. Its name is AC. If a line designated as AC were a perfectly straight line and unchanging direction bearing northeast. So it's just northeast, okay? AC. Let's say AC is a line, and this AC goes northeast, and it's unchanging and perfectly straight. Then line CA would not bear northwest, since it should be the opposite direction, right? It must bear southwest. Is that clear? If AC is a line perfectly straight, northeast, then CA should be what? Southwest. Hakada. If AC is northeast, then CA should be southwest. To say otherwise is to fall into explicit contradiction. If somebody says other than this, then he is absolutely wrong. And he's wrong. And contradiction is always invalid. Remember that. That's a rule. Contradiction is categorically invalid, always. Contradiction is always invalid. It's never valid. This is the same fallacy of Keller. Here are more optical illusions from his book. Yani, from the other thing we talked about. But now we're going to take a look at something else and maybe we'll come back to it. Try to follow the reasoning behind them being illusions and the refutation of them. So we're saying that AC, if AC is northeast, then CA has to be southwest. And Keller contradicts that. Try to follow the reasoning behind them being illusions and the refutation of them. It might be more difficult for one to understand this case, especially if one is reading on his own and not hearing the words of a teacher. But we seek the help of Allah in making this as simple as possible. Below there are 3 globe pictures, so let me know if anything is not understood. This says Figure 1, Keller Diagram 2, labeled. Labeled means it has letters on it. So, this is scanned right out of his book. You see, it says a question of fact. And you see number 1, this is a picture of a globe, which is truly a flat image. It's not really a globe. There's an illusion in it. So you see A. Remember, we have a line named AC. So you're seeing A of AC in the first picture. In the second picture, you see C, AC. So A, C is northeast, right? CA should be southwest. Here's another one. Number 3, you see line AC. Now, if you're able to control your own screen, if you want to look at that while I talk, then just scroll back up to the picture and listen, or else if you're following my scroll, I need to read. How many illusions can you detect? One illusion is that the circles seem three-dimensional while they are only pictures drawn on a flat surface. These are flat and not spherical globes. We already caught that previously, right? 2, another illusion is that line AC in the second and third pictures is bearing northeast, and that line CA, the exact opposite, is also bearing northwest instead of southwest. Yani, another illusion is that line AC in the second and third pictures is bearing north, and line CA, the exact opposite, is also bearing north instead of bearing south. If line AC is northeast, then line CA should be southwest, not northwest. Yet a third illusion is that a line that is not curved occurs over a curved surface. Another illusion is that a line that's not curved occurs over a curved surface. I'm going to keep going down. I think the pictures come back. You can keep looking at the pictures if you need to. The illusion of a straight line over a curved surface is clear. Perfectly straight line over the curved surface. What's supposed to be a curved surface. But really what it is it's a straight line. It was originally a straight line on a piece of paper or just a line on a computer screen. If the surface is curved, any line running over it would also be curved. Therefore, they promote yet another illusion, which is that this unchanging direction is a three-dimensional object. There's an illusion that this unchanging direction is a three-dimensional object. Because in their reasoning, if you look at the line from above, it appears straight. And if you look at it from the side, it appears to bend, like a bridge. I wonder if you're following that. It's going to come clear, inshaAllah ta'ala. They take a string from northeast to Mecca. So they say, this is our direction. And they say, look at it from the top. So if you look at it from above, meaning like just, you're looking at it from the northern view, you see a straight line over the ball. If you turn it, then you see a curve, which is really what it is. It's not a straight line. So they are promoting yet another illusion, which is that this unchanging direction is a three-dimensional object, because in their reasoning, if you look at the line from above, it appears straight, and if you look at it from the side, it appears to bend, like a bridge that had you seen it from the side, you would see it curving as it ascends and descends as an arc. But had you seen it from above, it looks straight. They claim the northeast Qiblah is an unchanging direction because they are looking from above, from the North Pole view. The Qiblah in reality is not a line or a beam that is looked at from the side or the top. The Qibla is not something that you look at it from the top, and it's not something that you look at it from the side. Nor is any direction something that is looked at from the top or from the side. This is in terms of reality. In reality, a direction is not looked at from the top or from the side. But in imagination, yes. Did you understand that, brothers and sisters? Please let me know if you did not understand that. If you did understand it, don't ask me to repeat it. But if you didn't understand it, ask me to repeat or ask a question. Looks like a question is coming. He said, because it doesn't follow the rules of determining direction based on how to read a map, right? Yes, correct. 2, for him to draw a solid black line for northeast and a curved dotted line for southeast is dishonesty. Both lines would be curved in reality because the surface of the globe is curved. But our point is that the surface and the curve do not influence the directions. Always go back to this. Very, very, very important. The surface does not influence the direction. We're going to see, inshallah ta'ala, what makes that even more clear. The shape of the earth does not influence the direction. Both lines, yani, for him to draw a solid black line for northeast and a curved dotted line for southeast is dishonesty. Both lines would be curved in reality because the surface of the globe is curved. But our point is that the surface and the curve do not influence the directions. They only affect one's ability to move about, to travel. The surface and the curve, they affect your ability to move. Whether you should go straight or whether you should turn, but they don't affect the actual directions themselves. That's clear? The cardinal directions will not change because of this curve. At this point, many who defend southeast will slip and lose their footing in the debate. So be attentive. If they ask us, if your line, and they mean over the surface, if your line is curved too, it means you have no straight direction, like us. And no one else has one either. No one has a straight direction then. The answer is that we do not figure out the Qibla by drawing lines on the globe. We do not use the shape of the earth to determine east, west, north, and south. It's not about the surface of the earth. His mind is stuck on the surface of the earth. We face the Qibla by having foreknowledge of the Kaaba's direction from our direction, meaning the cardinal direction, not the relative direction. Then we use the religiously recognized signs for determining the Qibla to face that said direction. That's it. There's nothing about the shape involved here. We are now only talking about lines over the globe to refute their method, not because we use it. That's where you're going to slip. We're not using the line over the globe as our point. It is important for the one who defends Southeast to know how to handle this question properly. If your line over the globe is curved and my line over the globe is curved, then what? What's your point? The fact that the earth is curved is not a concern of ours because the directions do not curve. The directions do not curve. Having foreknowledge of the Kaaba, it means you have to know where the Kaaba was before that. You can't face the Qibla if you don't know where is the Kaaba. If someone threw a bag over your head and threw you into a black van and knocked you out, and then you woke up in the bottom of an airplane And then you got dropped out the hatch in a in a parachute in a box, and you landed on the ground and it opened up, and you had no idea where in the world you were. How would you face the Kaaba? Right. So to face the Kaaba, you have to know where it is before that, before you make your determination. That's what it means to have foreknowledge. If you don't know the direction at all, if you're unable to know the direction or make any determination or even follow a person, um, imitate a person in his Qibla direction, then you pray in any direction. And you need to make that prayer up when you figure out the direction. That's at least according to the Shafi'is. So, the earth curving is not a concern of ours because the directions do not curve. Know, however, that many who face northeast believe that directions do turn and bend around the earth. Again, this is a result of comparing imagination to reality. If you defend the correct southeastern Qibla, do not try to prove your point by drawing a line on a map or referring to the shape of the earth, because then you put yourself into his territory. You will not defeat him probably, or at least make a good headway by trying to prove your point by drawing lines on the map or talking about the shape of the earth. Just stick to the religious references and methods, like what's mentioned here. I think if you use what's here in this book, you'll be able to smash any person who debates with you about Northeast. If you understand these points, even doesn't matter how big he is. Like, don't feel nervous like, oh no, this is so-and-so. With these proofs, you can probably smash anybody in Northeast after this, inshallah. Note that in this diagram of three globes, that one we looked at, the first of the three images shows a solid line that we will now call AB, from left to right. It goes south to north. Okay? So we have a new line called AB. Is that fine? Everybody fine with our new line? AB? Okay. Keller underhandedly only showed one side, the Western Hemisphere side, to show the initial line going northeast. For them, this image is sufficient to prove that the Qibla is northeast. And from this view specifically, they named their entire line northeast. However, it would not be to their interest, those who are dishonestly supporting the northeastern direction, by using these illusions to show the opposite view, the other side of the globe, the Eastern Hemisphere side, alone. Because then the illusion would disappear, and the change in direction, along with the fact that there is no straight line, would show up for everyone to see, thereby nullifying their point. So they'll show you a northern view, so you can see what looks like a straight line. They'll show you a western view, so that you can see a northeast line. And they'll never show you an eastern view, so that you'll see a pure southeast line only. However, if showing the Western Hemisphere side alone is valid, then showing the Eastern Hemisphere side alone is valid, especially if it is truly an unchanging direction, then there's no problem with never, ever, 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 ever showing the Eastern Hemisphere view alone, but they hide it because it reveals only a southeastern line. Let's take a look. There you have line BC, our new line BC. Is that clear? No, this image is not in Keller's book, of course not. And this image is not on any Northeaster's, anything he's done, any blog, any website, any presentation. No, I would dare say there's never been, or probably very rarely, a Northeaster, a person who faced Northeast would show an image like this. This is like how the Wahhabis, the so-called Salafis, when it comes to the hadith of the slave girl, they only refer to Imam Muslim's narration because it has the wording of their choice. And they avoid Imam Malik's narration of the same hadith because it exposes the truth, it clarifies the issue. As seen, if the Eastern Hemisphere side is shown only, the line would clearly be southeast. Now, take a look at both sides together and see how the illusion of an unchanging direction disappears. So we have here line AB on the right side, which is a northeast line. But on the left side, we have line BC, which is a southeast line. Line AB is a northeast line. Line BC is a southeast line. And we said, if line AC is northeast, then line CA should be southwest. Not northwest. Is that clear? Yes, question, go ahead. You said, what happens when you show the Northeast people this image? Do they accept or get stumped? Usually they'll say, you're ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about. The scholars have spoken about this. All the scholars spoke about this. You think you know better than them? You saying all the Muslims in North America are stupid? I'm not saying they're stupid, but in this case, most of them are not being smart. I'm surprised at some very educated people who accept this Northeast talk. Some very educated people. So figure 02, note that B represents the same point on both sides of the page. Right. Let's take a look at that. B represents the same point on both sides of the page here. Okay? So B on the right side and B on the left side are the same. That's clear, yeah? Looking at both sides reveals the obvious curve that alters the direction. Line BC on the left side is southeast, while line AB on the right side of the page bears northeast. And note that B represents the same point on both sides of the page. Here is another projection of the curve that they claim is straight. Let's take a look. There's line ABC. And look at line AC. In this picture, line AC is not northeast. It can't be. Well, line AC with the B in the middle, that's the northeast line we were talking about. The red line is line from A to C. That red line is the one we were talking about. If AC is northeast, then CA can't be anything other than southwest. How would it go back northwest? How would AC be northeast and CA is northwest? The opposite of north is south. So that's clear. Make proper use of the following flat image that gives the impression of a sphere. It's an illusion, of course. So you have your latitude and longitude lines, your prime meridian, your equator. We have line ABC as curved. And you see this red arrow as if it's going right through the earth. By the way, you know, all these pictures are just approximations. I am in no way saying that we believe that, you know, the earth is like this, for example. I think that's clear by now. All of this is for argument's sake and for clarifying the religious rule. So you can see that red arrow is going right through the globe. So the arrow at C is lower than the arrow at A. Southeast. East, southeast. If you compare A to C, C is definitely southeast of A. On a globe, the surface does not affect the direction. So here's a question for those who face northeast. You claim that your line over the globe is a straight line, one unchanging direction. If it is truly one direction, then what prevents you from considering only half of the line? For example, had the line from New York to Mecca been ABC, why can't you look at the unchanging direction from the halfway mark to look at it as BC only and forget about the point that starts at New York? Let me read that again. So here's a question for those who face northeast. You claim that your line over the globe is a straight line, one unchanging direction. Doesn't go right, doesn't go left. Just straight. If it is truly one direction from the beginning to the end, then what prevents you from considering only half of the line? Or let's say it like this. What prevents you from considering the second half of the line? Because they do only take half of the line. They take the first half. They take AB. And they call it northeast. But since it's one unchanging direction, then why not take line BC and just call it southeast? Because it's all one line. A gets to C through B. without any change. So A doesn't really have to be relevant. Let's just call it BC, the southeast line. And forget about the point that starts at New York. Yani, let's take a look. See if it works. Since it's an unchanging line in your claim, say we see line AB, we see line ABC, we see line ABC. So, you said this is an unchanging line. Why don't we just take line BC only and forget about A? It's all unchanging. So let's just call this line southeast, considering B and C only. Is that clear? Is this refused and rejected because then you will be unable to call it northeast? No. Why reject it? Because you won't be able to call it northeast? Is it the name that matters? Is there another agenda to calling this entire line from its beginning to its end northeast? Is there some agenda behind calling A, B, C only northeast? Is it the name that matters? It can't be the name that matters. If it's the name that matters, there must be something behind it. Is there another agenda to calling this entire line from its beginning to its end northeast when its end is at Mecca, which from us is clearly southeast? Why would it be necessary to consider the point that starts at New York, which is A, if the line is one unchanging direction? Should we not be able to take from any point of the unchanging direction, since it doesn't change? In your claim, since it is an unchanging direction A, B, C, it would be just as valid as BC because there's no actual change. If it is truly one unchanging direction, then it would not matter at what point you start. If you think of a reason why you must start at A, then there must be a change before reaching C. Why must you start at A? Because there must be a change before you reach C that you are trying to avoid. As if you know that according to the way maps are read, your line is an arc, actually, and you are hiding that from those who do not know better. If, on the other hand, you say that it is valid to start in the middle of the unchanging direction at B, then it would be valid to refer to this unchanging direction as southeast. And it will still be the same line as you drew. If we start from B to C, it'll still be the same line that you drew. And it would be valid to call it southeast. You see that in the image there, that arrow, which is northwest, southeast? That's half of their line. Since it's the same thing, then what's the problem? Figure 04, the arrow, which is approximately half of the line they drew, points northwest. So the direction is southeast. Of course, this will be unacceptable to them, but it is clear from this point that their line is not one straight unchanging direction as they claim. They are merely hiding that change by positioning the globe as they wish, by showing the Western Hemisphere view to convince you of the northeast direction, by showing the Western Hemisphere view to convince you of the northeast direction, and by showing the northern view to claim that the line is straight. Here's Keller's diagram this time unlabeled. So the first globe gives you the Western Hemisphere view, just so you can be convinced about Northeast. Then it gives you two northern views, so that you would be convinced that it's a straight line. And they, of course, will never give you the Eastern view only, so that you would not see that it's southeast. The secret to unraveling this fallacy is knowing that there are 3 points which all have something in common. The first point is northeast, the second is east, and the third is southeast. The common denominator between them is east. One unchanging direction. East is the only unchanging direction. If there's anything that's not changing, it's only east. Looking from the northern view eliminates the visual of the north-south change. That's the secret. Why they show you from the top, so that when you see it from the top, the change from north to south disappears. The curve disappears. Is that clear? Looking from the northern view eliminates the visual of the north-south change and preserves only the commonality between all the points. When you look from the north, you see the one common direction, an unchanging direction, and a straight line, which is what? No, not northeast. What is the straight line you see when you look from the top? When they show you the northern view, what direction is that straight line? East. Exactly. Once they showed you from the top, the north and the south part of that line disappear. And the only thing that remains is east. That's why you see straight. If you turn it to the side, and then you can see how much of it is north and how much of it is south. If you just turn it to the top, then that disappears like a bridge. If you look at the bridge from the top, it's straight. If you look at it from the side, it's arced. If one were to look from the side, meaning the east-west view, instead of the top, the northern view, the change from north to south reappears. It is this change that they unrightfully and stubbornly deny. Is this clear, brothers and sisters? Observe this illusion generated by a northeast person. This is figure 06, east-west view that reveals the north-south direction change. This was generated by a northeast person on YouTube. I went and grabbed his images. He was doing a video, and this was all animated. So I paused it, and I took a screenshot. The coloring gives the impression of a sphere. And when the person who generated this image was challenged by it being said to him, "This is a flat map," he said, "No, it's a sphere." It was said to him, "This is a flat map, this picture you have on your screen, on your video." He said, "No, it's a sphere." That was a test for him to see how far is his understanding in the issue. If he really truly understood, he would have said, "Yeah, you're right. It's just an illusion that gives the impression of a sphere." Either he has been deceived by his own illusion, or he is stubborn. And for both to be true is not impossible. One sees clearly the line that changes direction. They deny that what you see is true. They say, you see a curve there, huh? Well, that's just a trick of the eye. and they claim that you have not looked properly. And then they change the angle, and voila, a supposed straight, unchanging direction. Just turn it a little bit so that the curve disappears. This is not how you read a map. But they call that entire line northeast. So that's clear? In simple terms, to call it an unchanging direction, they acknowledge only east. That's in simple terms. They would be acknowledging only east and ignoring north and south. They call the entire line northeast because of how it starts. And they do not acknowledge the ending direction of southeast as a direction. They don't acknowledge it as a direction. Then they get stuck with the northeast line whose opposite is northwest, which is impossible. Its opposite would have to be southwest. They got stuck with the northeast line whose opposite is northwest because they made a mistake. Subhanallah. Northeast, 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 northeast. Then now it's going southeast, 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 southeast. If you follow it back, northwest, 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 northwest. Now it's going southwest, 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 southwest. It's wrong. Then they get stuck with the northeast line whose opposite is northwest, which is impossible. Its opposite would have to be southwest. Is that clear? If someone says that Keller did not put those pictures in his book, instead it is the commentary from someone who did a preface, an introduction, we say that the book has his name on it in large letters. It is his name that gives weight to the book in people's eyes. If he does not agree with what is in his book, then he should clear himself of it. Otherwise, it's clear that he is the responsible spokesman. Wabillahi tawfiq.